It did not begin with alarms. It did not begin with sirens. It began with silence. Off the Venezuelan coast, in waters long assumed protected, the morning appeared calm. The sea reflected the first light of dawn. Waves lapped against concrete piers. Gulls circled lazily overhead. To anyone onshore, nothing seemed out of place. But beneath that stillness, a line was about to be crossed. A line with consequences that would ripple far beyond the Caribbean. For 2 years, the Maduro regime had poured concrete into the Caribbean, meter by meter. Near Puerto Cabello, a 200-meter dock rose from the water, gleaming under the sun. Officially, it was infrastructure. Unofficially, it was the logistical heart of a $1 billion narcotics pipeline. 500 kilograms of cocaine were shipped every week. Shielded by corruption, geography, and unshakable confidence, this pier was more than a facility. It was a statement of defiance. To protect it, Venezuela turned to Moscow. Russian-made Kolchuga passive radar systems ringed the coastline. Unlike traditional radars, these systems did not shout pulses into the air. They listened. They detected electronic whispers, subtle movements, the faint hum of approaching aircraft. Venezuelan commanders believed they were untouchable. They believed the Caribbean had become a no-go zone for the United States, and that belief would prove fatal. 150 miles offshore, an Arleigh Burke-class destroyer moved silently through the waves. Its SPY-6 radar was dark, no active emissions, its weapons were secure. To the world, it did not exist, but inside its combat information center, the ocean was alive with data. Every electronic signature, every vibration, every anomaly was tracked, recorded, and interpreted. This was not a patrol. It was a surgical procedure. High above, at 50,000 feet, an MQ-9 Reaper drifted in a blind spot the Kolchuga radars could not see. Directly overhead, invisible, watching. The Venezuelan operators scanned the horizon, unaware that the real threat was vertical, not horizontal. The United States was not hunting blindly. It was dissecting the coastline, layer by layer. And then it detected something, a low-frequency electromagnetic pulse rising from beneath the reinforced concrete dock. Cooling systems, power draws, life underground, the dock was a lie. Beneath the surface, buried deep into bedrock, lay the real facility, laboratories, storage rooms, satellite uplinks. A subterranean fortress designed to survive inspection and survive attack. The concrete above was bait, meant to draw attention, while the true operation thrived in shadow. The mission changed instantly. This was no longer about destroying a pier. It was about removing a concealed nerve center while avoiding regional escalation. Absolute control of the electromagnetic battlefield became essential. At 100 hours, the destroyer initiated MCON Phase 3. SPY radar remained off. Weapons remained silent. Instead, the SLQ-32 electronic warfare suite came alive, not to jam, but to deceive. On Venezuelan radar screens, the seas appeared calm, normal, peaceful, but this was manipulation. Ghost aircraft began appearing. Digital illusions mimicked a dozen fast-moving jets. Venezuelan air defense crews reacted as trained, slewing S-300 batteries toward phantoms. Eyes followed ghosts. The real corridor opened. Beneath the waves, 2 Yugo-class minisubmarines patrolled the deep channels. Small, quiet, lethal. Their metallic ping echoed faintly on the destroyer's towed array sonar. Any aggressive response could have triggered a regional incident. Instead, the Navy bent physics. False acoustic returns projected into the water led the mini, subs miles away, chasing shadows while the real battle space remained untouched. At 2:15 a.m., an MH-60R helicopter lifted silently from the deck. It skimmed the treeline inland, its multispectral sensors piercing coastal fog and jungle canopy. A laser locked onto a point invisible to human eyes, a ventilation shaft 50 centimeters wide, breathing life into the underground facility. Above, the MQ-9 Reaper aligned. 4 Hellfire missiles dropped silently. The first 3 struck the dock, shattering reinforced concrete, vaporizing steel, demolishing the Decoy in a perfect fiery bloom. Satellites could have recorded a mission accomplished, but the real target lay hidden. The fourth missile descended into the Earth. Guided by fused intelligence from sensors, lasers, and electronic signals, it dove straight down the ventilation shaft. A subterranean roar followed. Thousands of tons of reinforced rock and steel collapsed inward, burying the nerve center of the narcotics empire beneath rubble. The empire was gone, and no one fired a shot. Venezuelan defenses never reacted. Fighters never launched. S-300 systems, alive but blind, had been outmaneuvered by intelligence, patience, and precision. Confidence had been dismantled before it could react. By dawn, the coastline appeared unchanged. But underground, the empire that once dominated the Caribbean had vanished. No headlines, no official statements, no public acknowledgement. Yet within intelligence channels, the message traveled fast. Modern warfare had been demonstrated, not through explosions or spectacle, but through awareness and control. This was a lesson in restraint as power. Concrete does not stop intelligence. Passive radars do not guarantee awareness. Decoys do not protect, they only mark the target. The strike did not announce dominance, it demonstrated it, because real power does not rush, it does not shout, and it does not miss. Later, a Russian intelligence vessel moved confidently through the area, assuming invisibility. Its mission relied on ambiguity: gather what mattered, remain unseen, disappear. It was a familiar Gray's own strategy, but it had already been exposed. Every movement, every adjustment, every mechanical sound was being recorded. A U.S. P-8 Poseidon appeared in the sky, not threatening, not aggressive, simply present. Its sensors were active, sonobuoys deployed, mapping the ocean beneath. The once opaque waters became transparent. Every submersible, every cable, every vibration left a trace. The Russians were operating in monitored space, but unaware. When their S-37 submersible contacted undersea cables, intent was proven. Hostile action had been documented. And still no weapons were fired, control had been established. Exposure had won, the submersible was recalled under observation. Recovery was careful, movements were watched, analyzed, recorded. Silence had replaced confrontation. Retreat was no longer a choice. It was the only rational option. As distance grew, tension eased. No flares, no sirens, no alarms. The sea returned to routine. NATO vessels held position. The mission had succeeded without a shot. The nerve center was destroyed. The strike remained invisible to the outside world, yet undeniable in its effect. Modern power does not announce itself, it observes, it waits. It allows the other side to reveal their limits. In the gray space between peace and war, restraint is the sharpest weapon. Concrete and radars cannot defend against patience, intelligence, and control. And those who mistake silence for uncertainty will learn the same lesson, again and again. Power is most dangerous when it does not need to move, and on that morning, off the Venezuelan coast, it moved without moving at all. It began in silence, no sirens, no alarms, no headlines. Just a calm Caribbean dawn, masking a lethal precision operation that would shatter illusions of security and control. For 2 years, Maduro's engineers had poured concrete meter by meter into the coast near Puerto Cabello. Rising from the Caribbean waves was a 200-meter dock. On the surface, it was infrastructure. Beneath it, hidden in reinforced bedrock, lay the beating heart of $1 billion cocaine operation storage rooms, laboratories, satellite uplinks, all shielded by corruption, geography, and the confidence of its builders. 500 kilograms of cocaine flowed weekly. This was no ordinary pier. It was a fortress, a monument to defiance. The Venezuelans believed their defenses made them untouchable. Russian-made Kolchuga passive radars scanned the horizon, detecting electronic whispers but emitting nothing in return. The regime was convinced that any American approach would be detected long before reaching their shores. The Caribbean had become their sanctuary, and that belief would be their fatal mistake. 150 miles offshore, an Arleigh Burke-class destroyer approached under strict electronic silence. Espouet 6 radar dark. Weapons offline, to the outside world the ship did not exist, but inside the Combat Information Center, the ocean was alive. Every wave, every subtle vibration, every electromagnetic pulse was mapped, catalogued, and analyzed. This was not reconnaissance, it was surgical dissection. High above, an MQ-9 Reaper drone drifted at 50,000 feet, directly above the Cougar radars in a blind spot they could not see, invisible. Untraceable, watching, the Venezuelans scanned the horizon, confident, unaware that the real threat came from above, not across the water. The destroyer's intelligence systems detected an anomaly, a low frequency electromagnetic hum rising from beneath the concrete dock. Cooling fans, power draws, underground life. The concrete dock was a decoy. Beneath it, a hidden subterranean facility thrived, the mission transformed. Destroying infrastructure was no longer enough. The real target was buried, and the U.S. Navy had to strike with surgical precision. Without triggering a regional crisis, at 100 hours the destroyer initiated MCON Phase 3. SPUI radar remained off. Weapons stayed secure. But the SLQ-32 electronic warfare suite came alive, not to jam but to deceive. Venezuelan radar screens saw only calm seas, peace, tranquility. Meanwhile, ghost aircraft signatures appeared on their displays, digital illusions perfectly mimicking a dozen incoming jets. S-300 batteries slewed toward the phantoms. While the Venezuelan operators tracked illusions, the real approach corridor opened. Beneath the surface, 2 Yugo-class mini-submarines patrolled the deep channels. Small, cold, lethal. The destroyer's towed sonar array detected their presence 20 kilometers out. Any aggressive move could have triggered a deadly confrontation. Instead, the Navy projected false acoustic returns. The mini-subs followed the shadows miles away from the actual battlefield, unaware of the corridor cleared above and around them. At 2:15 a.m., an MH-60R helicopter lifted silently from the destroyer deck. Skimming the treeline, fog, and jungle canopy, its multispectral targeting system located a single hidden point, a 50-centimeter ventilation shaft feeding the underground facility. A precise laser painted the target for the strike. Above, the Reaper aligned. 4 Hellfire missiles dropped silently, guided by intelligence fused from radar, electronic signals, and airborne lasers. The first 3 struck the decoy dock with surgical precision. Reinforced concrete shattered, steel vaporized. A fiery bloom marked the pier's destruction. Satellites could record mission success, but the true target remained hidden. The 4th missile disappeared into the ventilation shaft. Guided by fused intelligence, it penetrated deep underground. A subterranean roar followed. Thousands of tons of steel, reinforced rock, and hidden laboratories collapsed inward. The nerve center of the cocaine empire was destroyed. No sirens, no flares, no warnings, yet the empire was gone. Venezuelan defenses never reacted. Fighters never launched. S-300 batteries remained trained on ghosts, blind to the reality around them. Their confidence was dismantled before it could be tested. By dawn, the coastline appeared unchanged, but beneath it, the billion-dollar infrastructure lay in ruins. The operation left no public footprint, no media headlines, no official statement. Yet intelligence channels understood immediately. Modern warfare had been demonstrated. Not through noise, not through explosions, but through awareness, precision, and absolute control. Concrete does not stop intelligence. Passive radars cannot guarantee awareness, and decoys are not protection. They are markers. Later, a Russian intelligence vessel moved confidently through the same waters, assuming invisibility. Its mission relied on ambiguity: stay unseen, collect intelligence, and vanish. It was a familiar gray zone strategy. But it had already been noticed. Every movement, every adjustment, every mechanical vibration was being monitored. A U.S. Navy P-8 Poseidon appeared quietly in the sky, not aggressive, not threatening. Just present, its sensors scanned the sea beneath, deploying sonobuoys. What was once opaque became transparent. Every submersible, every cable, every motion left a trace. The Russians believed they remained undetected. They were wrong. The S-37 submersible descended, preparing to engage. Every movement was tracked, every pause recorded. What was meant to be covert was transformed into intelligence. When it contacted undersea cables, hostile intent was confirmed. The mission had exposed itself. not through force but through observation. The submersible was recalled under observation. Retrieval was careful, every second documented. Silence had replaced confrontation. Retreat was now the only rational choice. The Russian vessel withdrew slowly, not in haste, not in panic, but leaving knowing its actions had been seen, analyzed, and recorded. That visibility carried more weight than any attack could. The sea returned to routine. Ships resumed patrols. Aircraft departed. No headlines, no celebration. Yet the message had traveled through command centers, intelligence briefs, and strategic assessments. Modern power does not require explosions. It does not demand headlines. When dominance is real, silence is enough. The side that observes first, understands first, and waits longest decides the outcome. In the gray zone between peace and war, restraint is the sharpest weapon. Those who mistake silence for indecision will learn the lesson again. Power is most dangerous when it does not need to move. And that morning, off the Venezuelan coast, it had moved without moving at all. It began in a way that no one noticed. No alarms, no sirens, no headlines, just the calm gray morning of the open sea where the horizon seemed endless and the world's attention was elsewhere. But beneath that calm, power was quietly asserting itself. Off the Venezuelan coast, 6 patrol boats moved in coordinated precision. No radio chatter, no visible weapons. To the untrained eye, it was routine. But to naval professionals, the geometry of their formation was deliberate. Every angle, every distance measured to apply pressure without crossing a line. Silence was the first weapon. On the bridge of an American carrier, nothing appeared to demand attention. Deck crews went about their routines. Pilots stayed secured, and that calm was intentional. Because in modern conflict, reacting too early can turn an encounter into a crisis. And crises have a way of escalating faster than anyone expects. The patrol boats inched closer. Each adjusted speed by mere fractions, tightening the envelope. Civilians on nearby vessels sensed something, altered course, but could not explain why. This was psychological pressure, not kinetic. It was the kind of stress designed to test nerves before steel. Inside the carrier, every movement had already been anticipated. Radar returns were analyzed. Optical systems tracked hull numbers and wake patterns. Nothing was overlooked, nothing was acknowledged. Silence became strategy. Minutes stretched. The patrol boats formed a loose arc, classic tactics intended to limit maneuverability, to create doubt, to force communication. And communication came. Over open maritime channels, calm, assertive hails demanded identification and intent. But the American ship answered nothing. Silence, louder than words, became dominance. The Venezuelan commanders expected hesitation. They expected warnings, they expected a response, they received none. The carrier continued on its course, massive and indifferent, as if the smaller ships did not exist. And in that indifference, the first cracks of doubt appeared. One boat surged forward, another shifted angles, still nothing. Inside the carrier, helicopters were alerted but stayed on deck. Fighters remained secured. Escalation was a trap, and control was the goal. The patrol boats now sat inside a narrowing envelope, close enough to be documented, close enough to reveal their intent. The pressure they meant to apply began to press back. Restraint, when visible, becomes a weapon. Finally, a helicopter lifted, slow, deliberate, sensors active, cameras rolling, no flares, no warnings, just presence, and that presence shifted the balance. The arc of intimidation faltered. Hesitation replaced confidence. The geometry collapsed into disarray. Retreat was not yet visible, but the first doubts had taken hold. A final hail came over the radio, softer, procedural, clarification instead of confrontation. Still, the carrier remained on course. No weapons, no threats, just steady motion. One by one, the patrol boats peeled away, slowly, carefully, their withdrawal deliberate. But the American ship had already recorded every move, every decision, every miscalculation, and in modern conflict, that record is power. This encounter was not over. From the horizon, other observers were in play. A Russian intelligence vessel moved confidently, believing the ocean invisible. But beneath the surface, the environment had shifted. Observation had become control. Every movement was now data, every assumption visible, every misstep recorded. Above, a P-8 Poseidon arrived quietly. No dramatic entrance, no radio challenge. Its sensors scanned silently, mapping acoustic signatures beneath the waves. The ocean, once opaque, became transparent. Every vibration, every mechanical whir, every movement had a signature. The Russian crew believed in invisibility. They were wrong. The S-37 submersible deployed, designed to operate unseen where no surface vessel could reach. It moved under the assumption of anonymity. Above, the Poseidon's network tracked its every maneuver. Sensors mapped its position, recorded its intent. What was meant to be covert became exposed intelligence. The submersible approached undersea cables. Every approach, every pause, every adjustment was logged. Intent could no longer be assumed. It was confirmed, and still no weapons fired. The trap had closed silently. Inside command centers, awareness replaced urgency. Calm remained, but sharp, decisive. The Russian mission was now under observation, and the pressure shifted to them. Extraction replaced expansion. Precision turned into caution. The mission clock no longer belonged to the intruders. The submersible was recalled under full monitoring, every movement documented, every procedure under observation. Silence had achieved what confrontation could not. Exposure had replaced engagement. Control had been asserted without a single shot. Above, the Poseidon and NATO ships remained composed. No alarms, no aggressive maneuvers. The sea returned to normal. To the outside observer, the morning was calm. But beneath that calm, the rules had changed. The first side to act, the side that rushed, had already lost. The Russian vessel withdrew slowly, intentionally, not chased, not harassed, but leaving with the understanding that its presence had been recorded, analyzed, and neutralized without a single weapon ever being fired. Visibility had become dominance, and that was the lesson. Modern naval conflict does not rely on missiles or explosions. It relies on awareness, discipline, patience, and the strategic use of silence. The side that sees first, understands first, and waits longest decides the outcome. The ocean returned to routine. Ships continued patrols. Aircraft departed quietly, no headlines, no public acknowledgement. Yet the message spread fast, through intelligence channels, command briefings, and strategic reassessments. Control, not force. Observation, not aggression. Restraint, backed by discipline and technology, became the deadliest weapon of all. In the gray space between peace and conflict, silence is power. The moment wars are decided is often invisible. It is the unseen calculation, the recorded hesitation, the documented intent. And those who mistake stillness for weakness will continue to learn the same lesson. Power is most dangerous when it does not need to move. And that morning, off the Venezuelan coast, power moved without moving at all.